What's up everybody, 40 the Broadway Saiyan here, and welcome back again to my YouTube channel, bringing you guys another video on Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. For this video, I have another burst evaluation video for you guys, where I essentially review two of the characters that are getting burst and LD weapons. Now, I am going in the order that they are released. I already did two videos. I did the first video on Squall and Shantoto, and I also did the second video on Vaughn and Noctis. I'll be leaving the links to those videos in the video description as well as the pinned comments, so you guys can take a chance to watch them and also kind of get an idea of, my thoughts on those weapons overall. Now, the purpose of this series is to give you guys an idea of not only what they do, but of, which one is generally more important for the character. And we already know that for the most part, the LD weapon is, but there are those certain burst weapons where they just do a little extra something that you're like, maybe I should add that to the character's kit, because there are a few out there that are exceptional with what they do. And my goal is to give you guys the idea of which ones those are. But anyways, the burst weapons that we're going to be talking about for this particular video is going to be for Ardyn and Kefka, because they are the ones that are right after Vaughn and Noctis. So upon the making of this video, Arden is still yet to be released in global, but we are still going to go ahead and touch up on what his LD and burst weapons do. So when it comes to Ardyn's LD weapon, he gets access to an ability called Dark Tornado, and what this does is he essentially will reduce his HP to 0, and then he's going to be giving himself a brave heal up to 100% of whatever that HP amount was that he reduced himself to. So for example, if his HP was at 20,000 and he reduced it to 0 from that amount, he's getting 20,000 brave. And then he's also going to be getting a brave overflow. He's going to be doing an AoE melee brave attack plus a single target HP attack. He deals more damage to a single target, and he has 150% brave overflow. Then he also deals 50% splash damage. So pretty standard, but this is the thing that he gets that makes this LD weapon so powerful. So he's going to be getting, if you fully max limit break the LD weapon, 9 turns of a buff called Overkill. Now, Overkill is going to be increasing Ardyn's offense, increasing his attack and max brave, which is pretty standard from a lot of different frame buffs that we've seen. However, the second effect that this buff offers him is quite powerful. So for as long as the buff is active on him, so for those 9 turns, Arden cannot be KO'd from an HP attack. So he sets his HP to 0, and then pretty much for those 9 turns, he cannot die. And if the buff does get dispelled, however, it is going to heal his HP by 1. So that is the one weakness of this particular unique buff is, it's still not immune to dispel. I mean, no buff is, but as long as he has his active, this guy is not going to die. And Arden has some pretty, fun mechanics as well, which I will touch up on when this character gets closer and closer to coming out to global. But as you can see, just that alone, that LD weapon is outstandingly powerful. Now, talking about his burst weapon, so his burst weapon is going to give him a really powerful attack. It deals 15 hits. It's AoE. He also does an AoE HP attack. It also has 100 AoE HP damage. If he's dealing damage to a single target, it's going to have more damage done. And then he also cancels the break status, meaning that it allows you to just break the enemy again if they're already broken. And then he also gets the standard upgrades, to the particular burst ability, which is, increase in brave damage limit as well as increase in brave and HP damage limit. And then afterwards, the party-wide burst effect is going to be 8 turns, and what he does is he increases the party's max brave, and then he also has a brave regen, or he restores a party's brave by max brave at the start of the turn, and the effect gets stronger up to 2 times every time he's inflicting a break. So pretty much he's giving the party additional max brave, meaning they could do higher HP damage, and then afterwards he's also going to be giving them a brave regen, and the effects of those for 8 turns is going to get better whenever Arden scores a break. So overall thoughts on these particular weapons. So the LD alone, as you could tell, I mean, not being able to die for 9 turns is insane. And even without the burst weapon, Arden can benefit from this for 45 turns because of the amount of uses that he has on this particular ability. But if you have the burst weapon for him, remember, you are going to be getting that free usage of his LD. Now, I know every burst weapon does that, but in this case, the reason why I'm leaning more towards, the burst weapon can also be really good to pull for him if you have the LD, is because you're getting another additional 9 turns of that really powerful buff called Overkill. So that's, 54 turns of not being able to die as long as you keep that buff up, and it's framed, so you can't push it off. So Arden becomes effectively like this undying unit in your party who deals a lot of damage, and one of his mechanics is he actually is able to have no action delay on an action if he breaks the target, and he also gets a immediate free turn right when he does that, right after he does that. So the man just keeps dishing out damage while all the while not dying. So for Arden, for my personal recommendation, definitely you want to go for the LD, and while he can survive off of the LD alone, the reason why I put value on his burst is not because necessarily for that burst effect or that powerful burst damage that he's able to do with the ability, but because in this particular, instance, he gets an additional usage of the LD ability for free, and then that means he's gonna continuously benefit longer from not being able to die. So that is gonna be what my thoughts are and what my recommendations are as far as Arden when he finally comes to global. Now the next character that's going to be getting a burst and LD weapon right after Arden is going to be Kefka, who people are very familiar with by now. Kefka is a character who specializes in inflicting some really powerful debuffs and inflicting a lot of them. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at his LD weapon and burst weapon and see generally which one is the more important one that you want to go for. So his LD weapon is going to be giving him an ability called Hyperdrive. It's a 12-hit Magic Brave plus HP attack. It has a pretty high overflow of 180%. He has splash damage on it. He extends all debuffs that he inflicts by a turn. And then the cool effect that this LD weapon gives to him is that any debuffs that he inflicts now are framed. So that HP attack silence, it's framed now. Defense down, it's framed now. Any debuff that Kefka is going to be inflicting is going to be framed, which is pretty powerful because that means the only way that enemy targets can get rid of it is by cleansing it. So that in itself is already a really powerful effect from his LD. Now, as far as his burst weapon goes, he gets an ability called Forsaken, which is named after one of his abilities from Final Fantasy VI, but it's another massively hitting AoE Magic Brave attack plus HP attack, increased damage against single targets and debuff targets. It also deals the 100% AoE HP damage, and it has that standard, Brave, the burst ability upgrades where you increase the Brave damage limit and you also increase the HP damage limit. And then afterwards, the burst effect, which you benefit from for 4 turns. This time, this is actually only for Kefka, I believe, but it increases HP damage dealt to enemies based on the numbers of debuffs inflicted, which can actually be really, really powerful if timed properly. So as far as Kefka goes, I actually think Kefka with just LD alone is more than enough. The fact that he can allow his really powerful debuffs to now be framed with that LD effect, I think it more than helps out his kit already. The burst in this sense is more of a luxury item, I feel like. Now that burst effect is quite strong. I mean, being able to deal more and more HP damage, depending on the amount of debuffs inflicted, it's pretty good. You're going to be seeing, your HP damage hit higher and higher and higher numbers. But at the same time, I feel like the effect, it falls more under like a generic category of like effects. And like I said, there are burst weapons where their effects, kind of seem like, oh, they're increasing this, they're increasing that, you're getting this regen, you're getting that. And then there's some that are just exceptional. For example, Noctis, that just has another effect that makes it a little bit more desirable. So for Kefka's case, I think you are okay. You're already more than well enough if you pull just for the LD alone and get the LD. But if you have the burst, you're going to be getting that additional 6 turns. You're going to be getting the free usage of his LD and also that really nice burst effect for 4 turns. But for me, I feel like this one is a bit more of a luxury item as well. All right, guys. Well, this is going to go ahead and cover my 3rd video for burst evaluations, focusing on Arden and Kefka. Hopefully this gives you guys a better idea and understanding of these weapons, so then that way when they actually come out in global, you can make your own decision on whether or not you're going to be chasing for just the LD alone or you're going to be gunning for both. And remember, a lot of these videos that I do when I talk about these characters and these weapons, a lot of the recommendations, they are coming from my own personal recommendations, and that is just that. So if any of these characters are your favorite, or you had already planned a long time ago, yeah, I'm going to go for this character no matter what, don't even listen to what I'm saying, and just pull for the weapon, because it's all about the enjoyment of this game with all of these characters put together that we love. All right, guys, this is going to be it for the video. Thank you again for watching. This is 40 the Broadway Saiyan signing out. Mahal, guys.